What's going on, everybody? This is Alex USA Days, and today we will have interview with Lana. Lana is a co-teacher. We work together on in a company called Job Easy, where we teach people QA skills, QA quality assurance. Now, I know this channel was more of a personal vlogging, reviews, stuff like that, but you will see a lot more QA videos and job preparation videos, and maybe I will teach you SQL or some other things that I know. So it will be growing this direction. So I'm just letting you know. But today I wanted to talk to Lana about getting a job as a Q engineer. What do you need to do? How hard it is? What about the market right now? What are the usual questions people are asked? And where do you start? So Lana, can you talk a little bit about yourself, and maybe we'll get to the topics.
Sure, sounds good. So, hello everyone. So, I am a senior software developer in test. Currently, I am leading test automation at a small startup. So, what I'm responsible for is just basically building test automation frameworks from scratch. And yes, I also teach with Alex at the QA school, which I think has been going pretty good. Anyway, basically right now is pretty much interesting time, I think, for searching a job, and it's definitely something that a lot of people will probably need soon. So I think it's actually a pretty helpful interview that we are having. So I am actually responsible for teaching classes on resume preparation, interview questions and answers in school. And I've been to the market recently too, so I can probably share some experience as well.
Okay. So if I want to become a QA engineer, I lost my job. Where do I start? And just a disclosure, right now QA engineers on average make from anywhere from like 60 from very junior level to 200K plus a year from like a senior automation. So it's a very good field, and I think this is one of the best IT fields. Maybe also there's a technical support field as well, but it's very easy to get and very good money on start, and you can grow, and you don't have to be a QA engineer all your life. You can grow into developer, project manager. There's so many other opportunities within the IT field. So yeah, I think it will be helpful, especially with people losing jobs right now and looking for opportunities in the future.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have quite a lot of experience. I started as a QA engineer about 8 years ago, and it is actually pretty easy to get into that market. I don't have any IT background or any computer science degree, for example. So I went to boot camp, graduated from the boot camp. It took I think 6 or 7 weeks, and that's it. And after that, I basically was on the market searching for jobs, and landed at one of the companies. Worked there for a year, then moved on, and that's basically it. What I like about QA market overall is that yes, it is technical, but it's not very technical, especially for manual roles and for entry level positions. Like all you need to do is just know how to communicate the issues that you find, be able to read and create documentation, and that's mostly it.
Hmm.
Just some manual testing. It's very easy.
So at your first job, what were your responsibilities as a QA engineer? What QA engineer normally does during the workday?
Yeah. So I was working for a gaming company. That was the first one. And I was responsible for actually just playing mobile games and reporting the issues that I would find there. So we were having Jira as a system for backtracking, just filed all the issues. We had a set of test cases. So basically, for certain things that we definitely needed to test, we would just create a list of scenarios that we were going through the app. Worked with a lot of mobile devices. So we had like 30 or 40 mobile devices and tested on different ones. But that was pretty much it on a very high level. I also then learned how to like access a database and all those. It wasn't the original requirement for the job, but I was just curious. So I also learned a bit more technical stuff, but the main responsibility is just manual testing.
What was the starting salary like for the very first job?
Well, keep in mind that I was looking for a job long time ago. I think it was around $20 per hour.
$20 as a start.
Yeah.
And then how fast does it grew to, like some other level?
Very fast, actually. After that job, I got another one. I think it was around 30. Then they hired me full time, and they gave me 60,000 as a full timer. And Yeah, so then I got to automation at some point. And when I switched to automation, that's a whole different story. And that's, I think, 120 right away. So I basically doubled the minute I switched to
Right.
automation.
What are the normal like interview questions someone who's looking for a QA job should expect?
There are probably two main categories. So some questions are related to more technical stuff, but it's not like they're going to ask you to code. No, it's just going to be something like, what kind of information do you put in a bug report? How would you create a test case? What kind of information do you put in a test case? How would you, let's say, prioritize testing on Android or on iOS? What's the difference between two of those, right? So things like this. And also there are a lot of behavioral questions. I'd say from my experience, probably 50% of the interview or maybe even more are actually behavioral questions. And those are all different. There's classical, tell me about yourself. There's definitely going to be a question about let's say, what is your current project, what you are working on right now. If you have any experience, there is going to be some questions around, let's say, certain situations. So, for example, well, you reported a bug, but developer tells you this is not a bug. What would you do? Or how would you test in case there is no documentation? So things like this. What would you do when you find a bug? So,
Right. So as a QA manager, I also always ask two questions. How do you approach solving problem? And what do you do at work when there's conflict? Those are also behavioral questions, but I, think they're very important. So how would you answer those questions?
that's a good one. So the solving problem, I actually haven't really heard that one. I did hear, I think, a similar one, which was like, let's say you are stuck and when working on a certain task. So what would you do in this situation, right? Which I think is similar. So when answering that, I usually recommend people to just basically start from the collecting the information. Let's say you face a certain problem. Is this because you don't know how the application behave? Is this because of something else? Maybe you don't have a certain device to test on. So things like this, right? So first of all, try to collect the information. If that's regarding your software that you are testing right now, go search for specifications, look at the spaces, go through Slack chats and things like this. Maybe you'll find something. Go through Confluence. Maybe you'll find something. Then, if you can't find any information, if you Google and you can't find any solution, definitely ask one of your teammates. Maybe they have faced a problem before, and as a last resort, also ask the manager. What I would not like to hear here is somebody who would just sit and wait until manager comes over and asks like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, oh, I'm actually blocked, right, for the last 3 days. So this is something that you definitely shouldn't say. So that would be my approach. The second one about the conflict is very common, actually. So usually when people ask me this question, I say something like, I'm lucky. I don't really have a lot of conflicts. I've never actually had a conflict in my life at work. But if I had a conflict, what I would do is actually at first, I would try to communicate with the person and understand what is the issue. Like maybe we can talk through it and maybe there is some sort of a misunderstanding, right? It can be not, it can be something that is not, too bad. That is the first step. The second step probably would be I'd ask some sort of advice, probably from my manager, and say like, okay, so this is the person, this is the situation. Maybe I don't know something else that my manager knows, and my manager can give me an advice. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to go through HR. It can be just in the form of advice first. Try that. If that doesn't work at all, that's probably a bad situation, but that's the time when I can actually ask HR or I can ask the manager to resolve the conflict, and they may help. Like from my experience, I remember an interesting situation when two developers were working on the same project, and they had terrible conflicts. They would always argue, and it was quite fascinating, to be honest. And they couldn't connect. So what the manager did, they actually moved them to different projects, and then like a couple months later they were almost like best friends, and I couldn't believe it, right? But you can't do it. Like at some point, if you can't solve the problem, manager can help, but you can't do it yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. So we'll try to keep this interview short, and we'll definitely record more videos. I just wanted to say that Lana has her own YouTube channel. She discusses this different QA questions, interview questions. What I was also curious right now in the situation of, so many people losing jobs, and IT still has a high demand for specialists, and we will not gonna see people coming from outside of the country to work in the field probably for a while now, maybe for a year or so until we're open. But the question is, where should I start looking for a job? What are the places where you can actually start looking for a QA position?
Pretty much every website where they post a job it usually has at least some QA roles. The ones that are more special to just IT are going to be Dice, Indeed, LinkedIn, Glassdoor. For sure, those are my personal top resources where I go. I personally like to have a very good LinkedIn profile and then go through LinkedIn search. That'd be my first choice. As a quick comment here, I've been looking for a job for the last maybe around a month, and I still see a lot of roles, and actually I still have a lot of conversations with recruiters. So if you see a job, just apply and keep on applying. I understand a lot of people unfortunately losing their jobs, but still there are a lot of companies who actually need people. So don't worry, the jobs are going to be there.
Okay, awesome. So this was Lana. Thank you so much for your time. Guys, in the description, you'll find the link to Job Easy. You'll find the link to Lana's channel. And post some comments. If you have QA related topics, what would you like to talk about? And we will record another interview. All right. Thanks, everyone, and bye bye.
Bye bye. Stay safe.